So, TikTok is getting banned. I would say the most interesting thing about this is that 100% of the music industry last week and for the last
Mm,
9 months has said that TikTok is not getting banned.
yeah,
Now, some people are realizing that it's going to get banned on Sunday. Maybe. They're like, oh, there's still a
maybe,
chance. Yeah,
maybe,
like you. So
maybe. I'm still saying it's not gonna get bad.
there's no legal path for it to not be banned. The Supreme Court is clearly going to rule the law is legal. They're not going to delay it.
Are they gonna ban it and then it's gonna get unbanned the next day?
Let's see. The ban is implemented by Congress. They would have to pass another law. The voting went 312 against 120 votes. It would be very hard to change that many votes.
Looks like a lot of people are changing a lot of stuff for the new incoming setup, so could be possible that that swings the other way, right?
It's possible. The TikTok is not the highest priority on the things to change. They're currently trying to go to war with Canada and every other country. They're trying to end the war in Israel. They're trying to do a lot of things, buy Greenland. And TikTok is definitely the bottom of the list of the important things for them. But I don't know, if it becomes a priority, then maybe they can do something.
To general politicians, but to certain people, it might be higher priority because it's more in everyone's top of mind, you know.
Yeah,
It's a crowd.
so
It's a crowd pleaser move to actually do this.
it's a populist thing, but
It's
only
a
among
crowd
Gen.
pleaser,
But the boomers want to ban it.
but the Gen Zs helped. So there's, I guess, there's a love bomb back now for all the support from the Gen Zs.
Uh, Someone Bongo Scott. I don't know what that is. Um, so
So
Ed Markey introduced a bill to try to unban it for another nine
right,
months.
right.
But there's no ByteDance refuses to sell the code, sell the
Yeah,
algorithm.
that's not gonna happen. I don't see that
They're
happening.
not going to sell it. But can you imagine a world where China has direct access to 100 million Americans' brains at any time? They know everything that they want and look at and can easily manipulate them.
When is that happening or is that not happening?
That's happening now. That's why Congress was spooked and
But
passed the.
I thought that the latest report said there has not been enough evidence for that actually. So is it more spooking stories or is it actually based on facts that that is happening?
I think it started to get triggered with the war in Gaza, and there was some issues
Yeah,
around. They were
yeah,
pushing that. I don't know if that was
yeah,
specific. They don't have evidence that it was targeted, but they definitely didn't like the framing there versus on other platforms.
right. Well, given there has been no concrete uh so what do you mean? What has been proven
So
regarding that?
as long as China doesn't keep a paper trail that has evidence, then they can manipulate people as much as they want. As long as there's no evidence of
And
it.
so what did you say regarding Gaza? What did you say that what has been proven
It
regarding
happened,
Gaza, what they
the bill
manipulated?
was passed April 2024.
Yeah.
And that was a bit after there was a
Oh,
lot of um, uh, protests on college campuses around then.
right.
Yeah.
That still doesn't tell me now that China was interfering there,
No, there's no evidence. Yeah.
right? Like did right we did like yeah that that does like I don't get the math right just yet. That was then the China move.
But
I don't know.
so you don't think that China's bluffing? That they are saying they're gonna ban it, but then when the day rolls around, they're gonna say, okay, fine, we'll sell it. You think they're just gonna
I
destroy
don't
$20?
I don't think they're gonna sell it.
But like that's billions of dollars down the drain. Why wouldn't they just sell it to Oracle or Walmart or something? They almost
But
did in
they
20.
could, but I mean, if they're selling it, then they're selling the shell of it, and they're selling Musically again, right? Then they're not really selling TikTok, because I don't think the ByteDance algorithm is for sale because that's just in too many other products of the company, so that wouldn't really make sense or work.
They wouldn't be able to sell the core algorithm. If
No.
they sold Elon Musk, could Elon Musk recreate a better algorithm? Because he's Elon
Well,
Musk.
has
And
Elon Musk built a TikTok competitor so far?
he has Twitter, and Twitter has Grok XAI. They have a lot of AI. They have a lot of NVIDIA chips.
Has Twitter been growing or shrinking in the last
I think it's been shrinking, but Elon
time?
Musk is growing. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, regarding the interference stuff, like I remember that there was no TikTok during the Brexit time in Europe.
Mm, mhm.
Yet there could have been, there was a lot of meddling from at least Russia and some other
Right,
countries potentially
that's true.
via Meta platforms and Facebook. So how
Mm.
is that? How are we going to make sure that the meddling is not happening via the other platforms that are American owned and are still available?
In Europe or in the US?
Anywhere or in the US, doesn't matter. I mean, Europe's not banning it, right? So, um, in the
Well,
US, like
I
how do you
work
make sure?
at
Huh?
Facebook. I was actually running newsfeed for iOS there. So let me tell you. So after 2016, Facebook implemented a lot of controls and transparency. For example, in the ad system, now you can see every single ad that anyone buys and what it's targeting and where it's going and who sees it and how many people see it. And
Yeah.
so by offering that, also historically, they were able to see how much Russia spent on ads and things like that. And
Mm,
so that transparency is pretty important. X famously publishes their algorithm on GitHub, so that's also very very transparent. ByteDance doesn't do that. It's a secret algorithm, secretly controlled. ByteDance itself said that they are
yeah,
not able to sell the company because China would block the sale, even if they wanted to. They wouldn't be able to sell it because China. Yeah,
but I think that there is an ad library as well where you can look for the ads, as far as I know.
there's an ad library on TikTok as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I think so. In 2020, Trump was trying to ban TikTok,
Right.
and TikTok said, okay, we'll hire a bunch of Americans and keep all the data private in America. And we will, what we can offer is you can have people inspect our algorithm or something like that and like verify it. And I think either that didn't happen or it did happen when people aren't happy. They don't think it's fully being evaluated correctly. Um, there's just like not a lot of trust, I guess, in how that works.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, it's also the first time where media could not be fully controlled in the US, right? Because it's first time that a medium is operating in the US with a foreign entity, which is very common outside of the US and
Yeah,
many places of the world, right?
it's all
So,
American.
so
The interesting part is a lot of people now on TikTok are moving to Shang Shu Shua, which is or the red node.
red red node, yeah.
And I think that's really cool because now American citizens and Chinese citizens are talking directly. I actually think that's kind of cool because the TikTok, it was separate, right? The TikTok is separate
Right,
from
right,
uh,
right.
Douyin, which is the Chinese TikTok, right?
Hmm. Right.
And so that I think is more interesting because it's more transparent that it's Chinese, obviously.
Right,
A lot of Chinese characters everywhere.
right.
Um, but it's available here and people use it. And it's I don't know, it seems like people are having a good time and they're very welcoming. I've always wanted to visit China. I think it's a pretty cool place. A lot of history.
Yeah, a lot of history. A lot of history. Yeah, let's see if people are gonna keep using that tool or not. I'm not
You
sure.
know, yeah, it seems like a bit of a flash in the pan thing, like Mastodon. Remember when everyone went to
It
Mastodon?
currently sounds to me more like a stunt than like anything else. But let's see. Especially whenever an app shoots up the app store that quickly, I read some people saying like, oh, there's a sign for you still a new social network can be born really quickly. But an app shooting up the app store is just a result of an app burst campaign. So that is like does
Mhm.
not really mean much in general. Let's see. Let's talk again about this like in a few weeks or months, like if it holds.
A lot of people were posting on Twitter about it too. It seemed like
I mean, it's a very
legit.
populist topic right now, yeah. And I mean, but I mean, the fact that Twitter people go there doesn't really mean that the masses go there. So I guess Twitter people generally are looking for a new home. So I don't know if maybe not everyone is happy with Blue Sky yet.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of Twitter people are trying to leave the Elon Musk. It's gotten quite racist. It's really bad.
Yeah. So maybe it's a result within the Twitter sphere. It might be a result of that.
Ah,
But as we
okay.
know, that sphere is still a small flash in the pan across the whole
So
spectrum
the
of
red
people
note,
people
it could
online.
it could be like a threat, like, hey, if you ban TikTok, we'll just go to red note, and then like it'll be worse. So
Yeah,
you should leave.
I mean, it's people like in like who there's a certain amount of people who will be interested in talking, right, with Chinese people, uh, within tech or within like that and in more serious topics, right? That's not the majority of the internet. That's about entertainment
Mm,
and
yeah, yeah,
memes.
that's true.
So
You have a bit less in common because it's far, it's across the ocean, so no chance of meeting. Although again, it'd be cool if there were
yeah,
more, like if people talk about a lot of national security issues, but really if there were more connections between the continents, then it would be good.
for sure, for sure. That's a separate topic, right? If what the right approach is to unite the world more, and if everyone's interested in that or not, or who's interested in that and who's not, and who's benefiting from that and who's not.
Yeah, that's a bigger political conversation. But just from a pure social media standpoint, if people are posting thirst traps across the countries, right?
Yes,
It could bridge.
yes, the thirst traps are the same in every country. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, I saw some funny tweets about like dumb social media influencers they're everywhere. They're in US, they're in China, they're doing silly things everywhere.
Yeah, pe- people just want to have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, so
So what do you
in
so
terms
you so basically you started this and so what's your so you think this is gonna go down and this is it, the chapter TikTok is closing for the American public now.
well, if TikTok if people are looking for alternatives, I would want them to consider Hangout as
Oh,
a way
wow. I heard about that. That sounds cool. I'd hang out there.
discover new music. Like TikTok is good for discovering music potentially, and also Hangout is even more music focused. No videos. It's so very different from TikTok, but it is about hanging out, listening to music, be with your friends, and yeah, some people are.
I would argue that it might be healthier for a lot of people if they would just hang out and listen to music together than doom scrolling into whatever topic they're spiraling into.
Yes, we don't have an infinite feed of stew scrolling. It's more chill. There isn't big epileptic seizures of cuts of scenes to focus on. potentially less addictive. It's more chill, more relaxed. You can even have it in the background while you're doing something else, like doom
Mm,
scroll.
mm.
uh, yeah, it's the other alternative that people are talking about from TikTok is they could go to Instagram Reels or to YouTube Shorts. That's what
Right.
happened in India banned,
India. Yeah.
and people moved to
Exactly.
those.
I think that's something to consider as well, right? Like if this is gonna get turned around or not, I guess it depends on how good friends Zuck and Trump really are or not.
Yes, so the ban for TikTok has been tried by Zuck for years.
Right,
He was
right,
big pushing that in 2020,
right,
but didn't really have enough of a coalition until last year.
right,
And it would obviously benefit Mark Zuckerberg a lot.
right,
Gen Z, all on TikTok, and that would, kill this great American company. But as you note, Meta is also, controlled by a billionaire completely. He controls the board completely. He can do anything, can spend billions of dollars on metaverse, and he can completely, yeah, control what the kind of language and policing that's been happening on the platform, which he did. He admitted to it on Joe Rogan this week that he was able to delete memes and push, cancel accounts and move things around, um, sometimes at the behest of the government, but it's not totally free speech. And it's also well known to be monitoring a lot of data from users.
right.
You don't get that much money ARPU from ads if you don't monitor so many things about a person. And so it collects everything about your IP address, what your interests are, all these things. And Facebook knows a lot about you. And so the argument is it really worse if TikTok has that information or if Meta has that information? And these are
And
really
I
good arguments.
and I feel a lot of people are making an argument that depending on what the legal structure and the setup of a country's government is, that it makes a difference. But I'm not sure if it makes a difference. It's still the fact that like a company and entities have access on either of the platforms, right? So, but yeah,
You mean the NSA has access to all the data?
right, yeah. So I think if anyone in any country government-wise needs access, they get access also from Meta. They have to grant access, right? Like if the police is investigating something somewhere in Europe, they have to get access to Meta, and they're getting access. So I'm not. It sounds to me pretty similar, but I might be missing something. Um,
Yeah, I think the argument is that Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, it's an American company, it's owned by Americans, Mark Zuckerberg's American, and therefore his interests are going to be more aligned with America and
sure,
government
sure,
than the CEO who's in Singapore or
sure, for sure.
China. Although interestingly, ByteDance is 60% owned by Blackstone and General Atlantic, which
Yeah.
are American companies.
It seemed to me that they made all the changes necessary, including like I'm surprised even you mentioned earlier like when the topic came up again in terms of around what time, because even the moderation and the content policy teams, all of it has always been in the US and has always been written by people that held similar positions in other American US social media companies. So the policies have been the exact same and being enforced in the US. So I'm very surprised how that should have led to the topic coming back up.
Oh, so that's why you're saying there's no evidence that the content was manipulated around because it
Right. Maybe it
seems
was
like
just
America and it's very, visible what's happening in terms of.
yeah, maybe it was just I don't know, the people yeah. Yeah. The people doing saying things that, but I guess that same content should have lived. Yeah, if certain content has lived on TikTok, I would argue that the same content also probably would have lived on Reels too.
If it
Unless,
would
well,
exist.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
hearing from Gen Z that TikTok is more authentic
Right.
and
So I think
more
that's
liberal,
another I think that's another thing, like
more
that
show
just
off, more like
yes,
rich.
yes,
Like,
yes. I think there is this thing that I think TikTok is more similar to Twitter in a way that you don't think twice and you just post.
mhm.
And Instagram or any Meta property, it still feels more personal probably. So, and it also goes only to your friend cycle, right? Versus TikTok can go to
You can actually
anyone.
go viral on TikTok.
Yeah,
You
it
can
can go to
actually
anyone that's interested in what you have to say if it's relevant to them. And
yeah.
so I think people might be more inclined to post about certain topics on TikTok that they might not be posting on Instagram for because they might think that they find more like-minded people they might not have in their friend circle, but on the internet, on TikTok. I guess the same reason why people post on X, right? You also think like, oh, I cannot find someone to talk about whatever topic, maybe in
Yep.
person, so I talk about it on X because there's people who think like me. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually do interest-based groups and meeting people.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's similar on Hangout. You can find other genres that you like, and then meet people in that genre in public hangouts.
yeah.
You can also just hang out with your friends. Yeah, TikTok is pretty cool about that.
I
They
mean,
also,
in that regard, it's much more social, right? It's more social in that regard and less entertainment. And I think there's a lot of, I think social media in general is less social and more media. And
you think TikTok is more social?
TikTok is more social than media, versus other social media is more media than social, I would say, yes.
Well, that's funny because you actually don't need any friends on TikTok. You could,
Exactly, but that's exactly, I mean, socializing for a lot of people, if you look into stats, right, I think Gen Z the loneliest generation ever. So I don't think you can take for granted that every person nowadays has friends. They might have one friend they consider a good friend. Like, then if that's the case, then it's nice that you actually can find like-minded people because of the algorithm on the internet, and your internet friends become your friends. And especially with the younger generations, I think that's pretty much the norm now, right? That you make friends online through playing the same games and having fun that way instead of like doing I don't know, sports together, playing on a field somewhere in a little town. Now you're just hanging out somewhere in Discord or in a video game and you're doing that game together, and that's how you
or
bond and build
or on Reddit,
friends and
you find an
relationship.
interest on Reddit, and
Yeah.
then you go deep in talking about the same stuff on Reddit all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can build a lot stronger kind of relationships with Gen Z because it's interest-based. It's not just people who happen to be born in the same city.
Right. Right.
You don't really
Right.
like has any kind of overlap with them.
But exactly, which I would call that social. I think that's put social into media for me.
Right. Interesting. The other argument about keeping TikTok is ACLU actually is arguing this now. They've said in an amicus brief that it's a First Amendment issue.
Right.
And the Supreme Court made it clear that China doesn't have a First Amendment right to free speech. But TikTok's lawyers are arguing that the 100 million users have a right to free speech, and they're being curtailed by not being able to talk about it on TikTok. And it is a distinct service, like you're saying. Like you can actually meet new types of people based around interest. I think TikTok also promotes, not initially, but I think now it promotes more disadvantaged people, like people with disabilities. I think are able
Mm-hmm.
to have more of an audience there,
Yeah.
queer things like that. I think it's just more opportunity for people to connect richly
Yeah.
who are minorities and things. And I think that's very interesting. And it's a bit sad that it's getting destroyed.
Yeah, I feel that that's always been the case, that it's been a place for all kinds of smaller, more invisible communities to come out.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Maybe also again a result of the algorithm and it being social, and we can have all these like pockets. I mean, yeah, I mean that was the whole premise, right? In a post Instagram world, that it's all exactly as you said, it's kids say it's more authentic, right? Like I think people
More
were
authentic.
kind of fed up with this very highly produced, curated content that like almost feels like, I think, yeah, social media became more professional and more feeling like media, but at the same time not no one, but like a lot of younger people don't like when it feels like media or it feels like highly produced, right? And I think that like DIY touch is just higher on TikTok than it was on Reels. But I mean, it also has changed, I think, throughout the years too. I think the more, as these platforms gain reach, they're getting flooded by people that do media for a living, and
Marketing.
then and then it changes, and then the vibe. I mean, yeah, and then it's time for a new platform. I think that's the circle of life of social media.
Wait, so how has TikTok been able to avoid that death phase so far?
I mean,
How does it avoided the marketing capitalist leeches
I
from
don't
coming?
I don't think it has. I don't think it has, but I think the same way as people early on at YouTube try to adapt to that on YouTube you just don't just put a TV spot on it. I think people also like realize over time, okay, on TikTok you can also not just put a YouTube ad on it and then it works. It needs to feel more organic. I think
Mm,
people are just learning to adapt to the vibe of the platform, just or like to adapt like the style or the language, that people speak on a certain platform that might be very different from what a marketer thinks or how a company usually communicates. And I think the companies have been winning and have been adapting, which I guess honestly is the role of marketing, right? To adapt to whatever the audience is and how they speak. And so
mm.
it's the same way if you market to customers in different countries and you pick a different language, the same way you need to pick a different vibe and style. If you like market to different like ages, in a group. And exactly, I think that's different. It's not just enough anymore that you have like different like whoever, like the age of the person that's representing, but it like you can feel it, right? I feel it now when I see an ad. I'm like cringing also. So, like I'm just like not like, oh wow, why are they trying to sell something to me? I kind of love the like very subtle, it's hidden. It's like, oh, I'm like, oh, well done. I like, it seems interesting, right? You want that it feels like, oh, it's good for me. Seems like it's good for me. And even if that's a mind trick, I think it just feels currently to be the vibe to go for.
That's funny. That's why we're trying to be authentic by doing this as a live stream. There's no cut, there's no
Yeah. Yeah,
bloopers.
exactly. It's the same. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point.
That's what we go for. Weird, like simple white background. Like,
Yeah.
go for it. No prep. We had no notes,
Right.
no preparation.
No topic, nothing. Cool. Yeah, let's do this again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'm glad you liked it. It's great stream. Yeah, we might as well end the stream. It saves a recording in each platform, and then over the next days, people see it and they say like, "Oh, I just saw
Okay.
you
Okay,
podcast,"
cool. Okay, cool. Let's see how that
and
goes.
it's pretty cool. And you don't have to distribute it. It's already distributed. It's getting pushed out. I think a lot of platforms don't push out the live streams enough that much.
Mm.
Yeah, but then you can take the recording from the platform and then put it into a podcast and then put it on Spotify or wherever you put your podcasts also. So it's just easy. It's great. People over 23 aren't doing live streams
Yeah, yeah. Let's do
except for
more.
Stephen Wolfram. Uh, Yeah, no CEOs are doing it either. So I figured this would be an interesting way to kind of just mention hangout.fm and let people learn about it.
Yeah, and check out covers.ai while
Yeah,
we're at it.
AI, well, we have people watching. 82 people.
Okay, awesome.
Do you want to say what covers is?
Oh yeah, Canvas is one of like very new, like I would call it like personal media tools that lets you like adapt your like your own media to your own taste, which I think is going to be the really next big thing that's going to come post mass media and social media. I think AI really enables personal media, which means that anyone will be able to create and regenerate and consume a type of medium or piece of content in whatever way they want, right? Like if I wanna, like even with this live stream, I would think that if I wanna now hear Joseph talk in in Portuguese and I want the screen to be blue, I should be able to do that. I think that's gonna be possible with every piece of content that you're just gonna be customizing and personalizing it for you for your own consumption. Because I think the big thing I think that's going to happen is because there's so much creation and so much content, less and less people will be interested in consumption, and creation time is going to eat more and more into consumption time, and people are just going to actively do something instead of just doing the scrolling thing, which I think, given that we talked about social media today, it's going to be a really great thing that there's going to be less just watch and sit back, but more maybe let's be creative and do something and adjust something, and then maybe consume. But yeah, so that's what that's
That makes
about.
a lot of sense. I mean, the trend, in the 1950s, everyone just listened to radio and then television. And that television was four channels just feeding into everybody's
Yeah,
brain. And it
yeah,
told everyone what to do. I mean, famously, Hitler just gives speeches all the time about what he wants to do on radio, and everyone just listened and then did it, right? And then that's just an immense amount of one-way control. And as we've grown up now, we've gotten more two-way control with the internet. But even that, like you said, it was still kind of like, consumption, right? Even now, it's still doom scrolling. And having people have more of an active process in creating, right? Even now, like what, 1% of people create YouTube videos? Less?
yeah.
Even
But
TikTok. I meet people who love TikTok, but they never make videos.
but we got it pretty high up. Like the ratio is way higher. I think, yeah. Like I think on even in that era, I think you moved from like 1% on YouTube to like a third of the people. And I think AI creation or generation is gonna move that way beyond like 1 and 2, right? I mean, it also depends if you want to be creative, right? Some people are better at sports rather than being creative, right? So they keep playing sports, that's fine. They'll play video game, but there's like people who are creative, which I would maybe argue is like 1 and 2, I don't know. They're probably gonna be using some sort of AI generation or creation tool, and everyone who wants to have an idea or has an idea or something to say is gonna get it out there. But it doesn't mean that everyone's gonna do it all the time and wants to be a creator, but you also don't have to, because thanks to the new algorithms that luckily the other platforms have adopted now too, and TikTok really invented, like you can just have one interesting piece of content and then never do it again. That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to make it a business. You don't have to make it your hobby. That's okay. It's my thinking a lot around like even how we see music, right? The music generation is like, I'm not trying to build like I'm not like no one who creates like or generates like songs is gonna come for artists or top artists like business or that they want their hobby, but it really democratizes and enables anyone to have one hit wonder. There's gonna be tons of one hit wonders, more than ever before, and that's cool because we got to hear
Minutes of
more.
fame, right?
Yeah, we got to hear more perspectives, and more topics from more people, which I think is enriching the world, and that's great. And a lot of people will never ever do it again. That's cool, but we will have that one thing from them, and that's gonna be cool for a group of people to have.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a nice vision of the future. Yeah, just the other day, instead of doom scrolling, I asked Claude for interesting facts, and then I got inspired to connect some ideas and made a whole essay about it with Claude. And then I'm submitting it to different journals. And yeah, that felt really good to actually create something instead of just doom scrolling. Although I got
Yeah.
those ideas from reading a lot, doom scrolling a lot, just hearing a lot of news and then connecting the dots. So consumption is an important part of creation also.
For sure. You need, it goes hand in hand. That triggers creation and you wanting to contribute and do something your way. But yeah, I think it's really good for mental health as well. I feel like every day when we first started building the Make It app, where it's an app where you actually sing. Like every night, I would be singing some songs into the app, like into my phone, and like that was really really helpful because whatever was on your mind, you just let it out in a different way that is like very casual somehow. And it's really nice. It's sing your heart out. There's a reason why that phrase exists, I guess. So lots of good, I think lots of good things coming for humanity, I think, if we're all creating more and consuming less.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Greg, thanks for coming on the stream. Let's do it again.
Good.
Let's
Sounds
end
good.
the stream now.
Thank you. Until